In today's Courageous Conversation, we will discuss courage and how to be courageous if you're a sensitive introvert. I will be joined by Liesel, who is an experienced practitioner helping sensitive introverts build confidence, move through their blocks and fears that hold them back, and embrace their unique, authentic strengths. She uses many tools. Two of her favorites are EFT, or Emotional Freedom Techniques, also known as tapping, and the Gallup Strengths Finder. Those two tools combined create a really solid foundation for any introvert who would like to make a difference in the world in their own unique, quiet way. So let's hear what Liesel has to share about courage and living courageously. I'm really excited. And here we are with Liesel. Hi, Liesel. Great to have you. I hope you're doing well today.
Thanks, Moitza. I'm doing really well. Thanks for inviting me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me. I'm really excited for you to share your insights on courage with the listeners. Such a great topic. And let's jump right into it, actually, because I know you work with people on overcoming their fears and blocks. So when you think of courage, what is it for you? What is your definition of courage?
This is such a great topic for me and for many of the people that I am in contact with. Is we need courage so much of the time. And I looked up the root word of courage, and it actually comes from the Latin word cor. I'm not sure how to pronounce it properly. Yeah. And it talks about, the original meaning was to do with speaking our mind with our full heart. And that just gave me so much to think about. Is the things that I need courage for in life are the things that pull me with my heart. It's like there's something in my heart that says to me, this is the right thing to do. And I may still be scared of doing it, even terrified, or have, huge heartbeats. It's so funny, right? That the courage is where it's right here in the heart. And this is the place where we can feel the fear too. So courage for me is taking steps, taking actions, even though I may still feel the fear or the terror. And it's not easy. We sometimes think courage means there's an absence of fear, and that's not what it is for me at all.
Yes, a big, huge yes, Liesel. Yeah. So with you on that one. There's a misunderstanding often that we should be fearless and then we can move forward. Whereas it's actually the opposite. It's the having the fear, bringing courage that is bigger than the fear, right? That energy, like you said, from the heart, right? When something is so important that it pulls you forward despite the fear.
Yes.
Can be uncomfortable, but yeah.
Very uncomfortable. And actually what I find is sometimes it doesn't have to be that we get there all in one go. It can take little steps, like a little step of courage, one step up, and another little step, one step further than that. So it doesn't have to go like from 0 to hero in one day or in one big leap. And I think an important thing is not to flood the nervous system with too much of what I think I should be stepping into. So gradual is okay.
Exactly. Yeah. Very good point. When you mentioned the flooding of the nervous system, it can be that the stress, right? That the fear is, it kind of triggers the stress response, and that can be either fight or flight or freeze, right? It can kind of freeze people. And so I love that you brought that point up to stretch ourselves, but not kind of freeze ourselves completely, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I always say that it's, I have this, it might seem like, what's it called, an oxymoron, like it doesn't fit together, but being courageous, taking courageous action, and being kind to yourself, those two totally go together. I think they have to go together.
I love that, Moitza. Yes, courage doesn't mean you have to do stuff in a way that is completely unkind to yourself.
Exactly.
I love that you brought that in. I work a lot with kindness and compassion for myself and for my clients as well. It's not mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, it's the other way that it works together. Yeah, the same. I love that we're such a on the same wavelength and understanding this way. And I also just wanted to mention for anyone who's listening, right, that whilst we're talking about courage, right, courage of like I mentioned before, not in this conversation, in another one, you know, like firemen running into a burning building are very courageous, or someone saving someone's life is like courageous, but it's not just that, right? Courage is, like you said, those little steps, the overcoming those fears that we have on the daily basis, right? That takes just as much, if you know, courage. Even it's just individual, isn't it? The perception of fear is quite subjective.
Precisely. And how much courage we need for something is possibly very different to how much courage somebody else needs for it. So it's very, very unique, individual.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, so I love we laid some ground foundational how you understand courage, Liesel, and where in your life, actually, why do you consider courage even important in life? I assume you consider it important.
yeah, it is important. It's if we don't have even little bits of courage to step out of the comfort zone, our life will just stay the same, isn't it? Because my comfort zone is this big and all the things inside that circle is already comfortable. I don't need courage to do any of them because they all feel normal and completely okay. And it's just what I normally do. So it's all the habits, all the things that, but all of this stuff keeps my life feeling and being the same. So if I want different results in my life, if I want my business to grow, if I want to even strange things like visiting a doctor, visiting the dentist, if I want my tooth to be sorted out, if I want to get more fit, I have to step out of that comfortable place. And it does require courage to step out of that comfy zone where everything feels so completely normal.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I would even say exactly, it can be so seductive, the comfort zone. It seems like, oh, I'll always be fine if I stay in here. But my experience is that it becomes uncomfortable over time. Or it's even I even see that we start going backwards if we don't grow. Like I think at some, well, my experience where I needed to once in my life, I remember really bring a lot of courage was in my relationship. If I didn't, that relationship would not be today. So that's what I'm saying. Be staying in comfort zone in certain ways actually is detrimental. I think the comfort zone even would deteriorate. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes you like given a choice. Either you go this way, be uncomfortable and be courageous, or you're gonna go down a different way. It's also gonna be uncomfortable. But if that makes sense.
That's a great point. It's not that the comfort zone stays comfortable. We start
Not
feeling
forever.
like there's inside something bigger than the skin of the comfort zone, and so it wants to burst out. So it really grows
Yeah.
very tight in there and
Yeah.
awful,
Yeah.
and that's where those little bursts of courage can just help us.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. And I think the courage is in the wisdom to bring it sooner rather than later. So before the the you know what I mean, the symptoms of that tightness start to come and things start fall apart around us. If you can bring courage, little bits of courage, even daily, right, to challenge yourself to take those steps, I think we stand a better chance of a more fulfilling life, of a happier
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, I read something one time, and I think I brought it into my book, which is why it sticks with me now, is that change can be like forced upon us. And so that's when we've often been staying in the comfort zone for too long. Like we had a health
Yes.
issue and we left it and left it and left it because we didn't want to step out and ask for help, or it was uncomfortable to get more fit or to drink more water, whatever. And then the change can be foisted upon us or forced upon us, and that's when it's now truly uncomfortable. But if
Yes.
we took a little bit of our own initiative and start changing before it's forced upon us, it's more of a choice thing rather than I'm forced to change now.
Exactly. Exactly. Actually, that really aligns with with how I see comfort zone as well. It will be growth will be forced upon us at some point. I think we're designed to grow. You know, almost like a muscle. You either grow it or you lose it. It withers or it's there's so many analogies, right? When you look at different areas of life. Yeah, I love it. I love
Yes.
it, Liesel. So this brings me to my next question. I'm curious, where in your life do you see courage as important? Like, do you have anything? It can be something that's going on for you now or in general.
Mm. So there's two that immediately pops in is during this COVID time, no
Oh,
hairdressers. So I
mm,
decided, I've been thinking about the longest time, should I go, just not color my hair or not? And I've just taken the leap. And every time I look in the mirror, I still need courage to say, okay, I'll continue
mhm.
on this road. I'm not going to color again. So that's one little place. It seems like a silly thing, but it's because it challenges our identity. Like, how do I
Yes,
see myself? We need courage to step into a different identity. So that's one place where it
ab-
shows up for me at the moment.
absolutely.
And then another is a work area. I've recently been asked to host a class for somebody else's audience, and that was a huge opportunity, something that made me very excited. And I also needed huge courage to step into that. It's almost like a different place, a different little step, a different role, something that I haven't done before. And it took huge amounts of courage, not only to just do it, but to say yes, like, because I knew
Oh
the
yeah,
minute I would say yes, lots of discomfort would follow. And I would need to sort of know and be ready for, okay, I'm putting myself in a place where it's not going to be comfortable for a while until that next stage becomes the new comfortable place.
great point.
So yes, it keeps showing up for me, Moitza. It's not
Yeah,
it's like, okay, I've arrived, I'm courageous now. It doesn't
yeah.
happen like that, right?
Yeah, no, totally. It's a practice. It's a practice. And actually, it's a great thing that it's a practice because we have so many opportunities in our lives to be courageous. And I think being courageous in one area just trains that attitude, that attitude muscle of being courageous. And then I believe it's more easier to apply it in other areas. If we see our life as a field of opportunities of training that courage muscle, it can really serve us. So I see you're really putting yourself out there. And when you say with the hair and the going gray, it's silly. It's not silly, I think, at all. It's it's very relevant to so many people, to so many women mainly. I'll say, let's be frank, right? It's to women we've
Yes.
traditionally been kind of conditioned to look after our appearance, and I'm not gonna say it's I kind of enjoy, dressing up or or putting on makeup, but sometimes it can feel a bit of a pressure, and it's just good to be aware, right? So I think maybe one of my courageous challenges will be to do one of these without makeup. That would be a courageous challenge for me. Yeah.
I challenge you, Moitza.
Yeah. I'm sure I could do it, but sometimes we're courageous and then after, like Brene Brown that says that you have a vulnerability hangover. So I just want to share the view of courage that I have very much aligns with Brene Brown's. And I love when she says that vulnerability is not weakness. Vulnerability is actually a measure of courage. The more we are willing to be vulnerable, which is feeling uncomfortable in some way and a bit exposed, right? The more courageous we are. And actually, where was I? What was I saying? Oh yeah, around the makeup, wasn't it? I
Yes.
went on a little detour, digressed a little bit, but I'm sure I could do it, but then I would have the vulnerability hangover, and I think it's really important to know that so you can expect it, and when it happens, like, oh, I want to take it down. For example, the video or whatever, or if you share something and you want to take it back the next day, it's normal. It's just a part of it. This is all part of the practice. The courage grows the more vulnerability hangovers we're willing to tolerate, if that makes sense.
That's absolutely true. I know I would, yeah, I do this work with introverts who want to be more visible and feel more courageous in the spotlight.
Yeah.
And it's often something that happens is we share something, and it can even be just a little piece of teaching. It's not something about ourselves, but it's like our opinion or our
Oh,
heart that
yes.
we've put out there. And then as soon as we've posted it and one person has seen it, we go, I want to take it down. It's not, no, I don't want it to be out there. So
Yeah.
absolutely, that's hangover can very,
Yeah.
very quickly come in for us. And
Yeah.
it's actually something that I learned from a previous mentor that I had is I never go and watch my videos afterwards because I'm not interested in that sort of feeling of, oh, I should have done this differently. I could have said it this way or no. So I put it out there and I forget it and I let other people tell me what, you know, one of my other mentors at the moment also just talks about being agnostic or stoic
Yes.
about what we like. I've put it out there now, and let other people tell me what they think about it. But I
I like that.
sort of try and just be agnostic, like one way or the other. I've
Yeah,
done
that
my part.
exactly. It's a great kind of attitude or mindset to have. Like, yeah, it's also brave, I think. Like, okay, I drew the line here. I've done my bit, and I let it go. It's a little bit of letting
Yes.
go, is it? That's how what I'm
Yes.
getting. Yeah.
That's a lovely way to say it. It's letting go of the outcome, of the result of the outcome.
Yes.
Because otherwise,
Ah,
when we're so attached to the result, that's when the fear is there, the icky, the shame, the vulnerability hangover is we're attached to what other people are thinking about it or what outcome it will produce.
yeah. Yeah.
It's not easy to let go of it, but it's something we could practice as well.
Yeah. Oh, I love it, Lisa. Oh, this is such a juicy tip. I love it. I hope people are
Mm.
taking notice here and applying in their own lives. So, yeah. So I guess the next thing I wanted to ask is, yeah, do you have any other tips? Because I know that you work with people, like I said, right, in helping them overcome fear and blocks and really embrace their strengths, right? Which courage can be one of the strengths, or, obviously constantly developed.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, what other tips do you have for living courageously? When it's hard. I know you have tools. You can mention some of those, or whatever works for you
Yeah.
and perhaps your clients.
Thanks, Moitza. There are a few, and I think I may have mentioned some of them, and I'm just going to sort of go through them just one by one and just make sure that
Yeah.
that I have covered them in the way that I wanted to say them. Is so number one is to we can take small enough steps so that it doesn't feel like such a massive leap. Like recently, I hosted a class and I did 2 practice runs before the time with real people, so that I could just step into it gradually and each little step felt easier than the previous one. So we can build up our courage muscle by taking little steps. And so courage doesn't mean we have to traumatize ourselves in the process of practicing the muscle.
Exactly, the
Very
kindness
important.
piece. Yeah,
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Do it with kindness for ourselves as well.
yeah.
Um, Another thing that I recommend is getting help. If we need courage, it's not always such a great idea to feel isolated or to try and do it by ourselves. We can ask for a bit of help or support, and people are usually, I find, so willing to support and to help. We also have to know who to ask, right? Because we do also get people who are not so interested in other people's success. And so we just have to choose our helpers and supporters carefully. That's another thing, as we can get downhearted when we ask the wrong people.
That's a great point. Yeah, yeah.
And then another one is to not compare ourselves. So my courage level may be different than your courage level, and I don't need to compare how much courage I need compared to yours, or how big my steps are compared to yours. Comparison is such a um, word that comes up as party pooper. Okay, I'm just going to
Yeah, totally. The
it's,
total party pooper. Yeah, yeah, Lisa, you got it. Nail on the head.
it's
It's so
awful to
true.
sit with that. So
Yeah,
just, compare yourself with how you were the day before, not with other people. Because usually we compare our worst bit with their best bit, and that's why it's such a huge, like, a gap between what we think we should be able to do.
Exactly. I just got an email the other day. Don't compare your worst moments with other people's highlight reel. Yes.
Yes,
It's not
yes,
even. Everyone has low moments and high moments, and we usually just, yeah. I mean, not comparing at all, but usually it's not an equal comparison anyway. Or I often say we're comparing our inside to other people's outside as we see it. It's not the same. We don't see inside of their soul or heart or how they're feeling, and even in their head, right? It's
precisely.
yeah, it's just not the same. Yeah,
Yes, yes, it's not apples and apples there. It's more like a
exactly.
tomato and a strawberry.
Exactly, yeah. Or a nettle and a really ripe cherry. Although
That
I do love nettles. I don't know why I picked nettle. They can sting. I guess they can sting.
it's very uncomfortable, exactly. And so those internal judgments sting very, very
Yeah,
painfully.
yeah.
Exactly.
But sorry, keep going, Lisa. Keep going. Just
I love that we can have fun around this topic, Moitza.
yeah.
So the last step, I think, is just if we can learn some tools. If we have tools in our toolbox to help us pass the fear, that's one of my biggest things that I need to use. I can't just willpower myself through a piece where I need courage. I work with the fears with a tool like EFT or Sedona method or Byron Katie's work or anything that can help calm my nervous system, because if we are a person who gets naturally pretty anxious easily, then it's very uncomfortable to go to even consider going out of the comfort zone, and that could stop us. And I don't want to be stopped by all these doubts and fears in my mind. It's easy for it to happen. So I use EFT a lot for myself, for clients, and I find it really effective. It's also in a kind way, because all we really do is we acknowledge how we feel while we do EFT. So it's nothing about um, forcing the fear to go away or getting
Yeah.
rid of the fear. It's talking to the parts of us that have reason to feel fear. So we help them to just calm down, feel safer, and then we can move forward. Still, maybe with a bit of fear. It doesn't all have to disappear, but we get it down to such a manageable level that the limbic system isn't overwhelmed with it, and we can start taking those steps. So I think those are the tips that I
Oh,
feel most might
amazing.
value.
Amazing. So valuable, Lisa. Thank you for sharing that. And on all of them are amazing. Just want to comment on the last one. Yes, having the tools, just like you said, to reduce that fear to a manageable level where it doesn't stop us. And like you said, doesn't have to go away. I think fear is part of life. Um, I think it's kind of a futile attempt to try to get rid of fear. I think I said that earlier, right? If we wait until we're fearless, we're going to wait probably forever. Or because
Yes.
if you trying to do something that doesn't scare you a little, then you probably don't need courage. You're probably already comfortable in going ahead with that. And like we said, right, there's different needs for courage in different areas for different people, because it's maybe someone is very comfortable in putting themselves out there, kind of I don't know, in the public eye, but is very scared to open up in an intimate relationship, just as an example, right? And vice versa. So it's about attuning to ourselves, noticing where do we have those fears, and then finding the tools to manage those and take those courageous steps. I think is super important.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, Moita, that we can have the need for courage in very different areas of our life, and for each of us, it's a different growth journey and an
Yeah,
individual one. So that's perfectly okay, and life is not a place of no fear. There's increasingly more uncertainty in the world,
yeah,
and so we're gonna just need courage just to kind of stay alive. I think, if we consider things like just global things going on, pandemics and
agreed.
global warming and climate change and whatever it
Yeah,
is, all of it
yeah.
needs us to step out of our comfort zone somehow.
Yeah, exactly. And with the racial issues that we've been all faced with recently as well, I think
Yes.
huge amounts of courage are needed for people even to just face their emotions around it, face perhaps the resistance to address it, to look at it. You know, for instance, then I wrote a blog post on it because I really felt I needed to get it out there, and I felt probably a lot of people are feeling that way. Just being with our emotions, even if they're uncomfortable, it's so valuable to witness them because they can show us the way forward. And if we ignore them, it's not healthy and it doesn't help to create any change that we might want to see in the world. So I think courage there is really, really important to look at those perhaps uncomfortable places emotionally, even.
I love that, Moitza. It's a thing in the Western world, I think, to suppress emotion. Like we're not supposed to feel it because that makes us vulnerable or weak or something. So hide it, don't show it in the workplace. My
Yeah.
goodness me, that's what makes us different from animals, is having emotions and sort of being driven by them in many areas. And if the more we suppress it, the more unconsciously they drive us. It's
Exactly.
one of the things about fear as well is we keep it pushed down there. We don't look at it, and it stops us.
That's the danger. Exactly. That's the danger. Not actually, oh, it's such a great, you articulate it so well, so I love it.
Mm.
By not looking at it, it actually can stop us much more. And we think it just things are happening to us
Yeah.
rather than actually there's something we can do about it, right? If we
Yes.
can address that fear. I love it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. So this lovely conversation is drawing to an end, but I do want to ask one more question that I love asking as part of this courageous series. If you look back at your life, Liesel, and you have to single out one time when you felt most courageous, when was that for you?
Mm. A great question, because the time I was most courageous was also the time I felt most fear. And
Yeah.
so it was a time when I needed to make a decision about a career. I was in a career that felt like it was a stagnant place, and I didn't know what to do about it. And I had to make a huge, almost a, it was such a wide turn into a completely different career, resign one career, resign from that job and choose to go on a 4 month course. I had to pay out some policies to live and not
Wow.
know whether I would find a job in this new career or not, because it was completely different to what I had been doing. I had no experience in it. So just considering taking such a big leap was massively scary and fearful. And I did it. I think it was just something in my heart, like, pulled me. It's like, I can't stay where I am. I can just not do that.
Yeah.
And so something helped me to move forward, and I'm ever so glad I did. So I think just the level of fear that we feel, or the level of courage we have,
Yeah.
needs to match that fear. At the time, I had none of these tools, right? I didn't have EFT, so I
Yeah,
just had
no,
to
we
leave.
have to know. Amazing. It's amazing, isn't it? And it really brings me back to where we started when you said the core of the word courage is core, coming from speaking up or coming from the heart, right? Basically. And I really think that what I heard you say now, it was a huge turn, but something just pulled you in your heart forward. You just needed to move there. And I think when we have that, when we connect to that drive in within our hearts, then we can that is bigger than the fear. It's simply
Mm,
there's a definition. I'm not sure where I read it, but it was about the courage is when whatever we want to move towards is bigger than the fear we feel about moving there.
mm.
And it's simply that I think I'm really glad that you did go that way, because that way brought you to the line of work that you're in now, and that's how I know you. And I'm super, super grateful to know you, Liesel. And sorry, you were saying?
No, I just was going to say thank you. That's a really nice, kind thing
Yeah.
to say. Yeah.
Oh no, it's so true. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's also kind, but I do mean it. So, and so I'm so grateful to have you on this beautiful conversation that we just had as well, and really, really appreciate you, Lisa, So I think this brings us to the end.
Thank you, Moitza.
Thank you very much. I will share your contact details so people can find out more about you in the description when I post the video, if that's okay.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Liesel, and I'll probably see you soon. Bye, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that.